Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So beautiful to have you all and listen to your performances from the holidays. Maybe we'll start with you, Scott. How's the tour been going so far from your estimations? This is, of course, the last two stops after a couple of performances in Western Manitoba.
That's right. It's been great. We weren't really sure exactly what to expect out west, but we had terrific audiences. One of our bass, Jeremy, is from Melita, and so we were in his hometown, and they showed out in force and really loved the show. And then Brandon was great. Minnedosa was a full house. It's been really great.
I almost hesitate to ask, is there a moratorium on how early we can listen to Christmas music in the eyes of Proximus 5? I noticed the tour started in November technically, and there are some strong feelings that some might have about
You know
that.
what? It was the weekend of Advent 1, so I think
Okay.
it's okay.
Yes.
I think
Okay,
it's okay.
good.
I know it's not Christmas tide, but it is Advent season.
I'm a November 1st guy.
Okay, good enough. What about you, Carla? Are you
I'd be December 1st in my house, but when you're singing, it's anytime.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Anytime we get the chance to share the holiday magic through the voice. You have a lot of amazing pieces on this concert program. Maybe, Paul, you can walk us through perhaps some of the pieces that you can expect to hear at a Proximus 5 Christmas concert.
So this concert is a bit different than our last two Christmas concerts in that we're borrowing a lot of material from some of the more popular jazzy groups out there. So we do have some Pentatonics, Real Group, Swingle Singers, King Singers. I think that's it. We have 1 or 5 arrangements by Scott.
No middle of the road there, either 1 or it's 5.
And then we have still some traditional. So it's a bit of a overview of what's available around the world for Christmas music.
Sure. Maybe talk a little bit also, Paul, for a second about that sort of switch to something that has a bit more of a jazzy feel, a bit more of a contemporary feel. This is something that has been a bit of a shift for Proximus 5 in recent months, away from sort of the Baroque sort of favors that the group started with. Talk a bit about that switch and what it's been like to share holiday favorites with that sort of flavor in mind.
Sure. I think the majority of us have training in more Baroque Renaissance and not as much in the jazzy terms, but we've all wanted to move that direction. And so slowly over time, we noticed that the audiences really appreciate that move. And we really do want to sing for as many people as we possibly can, while still enjoying it ourselves, scratching our own itch.
Okay.
And I think that we are still really scratching our own itch, perhaps a bit more than we were before. And there are some of these tunes that we thoroughly enjoy singing. So.
Carla, maybe we can talk a little bit about what that training is like for a group that does a lot of Baroque and Renaissance singing and has that pedigree, not only within Proximus 5, but also in other ensembles across the city. What's it like to bring that sort of training to these more modern stylings of Christmas music?
Well, you're giving me the hard question.
Oh, I got that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's funny because Canzona just did this jazz crossover concert earlier this fall, and I think that, I think all the techniques still apply, where you're working with really close harmonies, and I think the beauty, too, of each individual voice is one per part. You know, it gives us lots of chance for nuance, and I think we're just bringing all the skills that we have in regular classical singing to maybe we're straightening out our production a little bit, but otherwise, I mean, you need like killer ears to be able to do some of these chords. So yeah, it's hard work, but it's super fun.
You bet. So Scott, your arrangements are also part of this concert, and they're interacting with these more jazzy and popular favorites by composers that folks are perhaps also familiar with from their holiday listenings. How would you say your pieces interact with these other works on the program?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I mean, I think Veni Veni Emmanuel that I arranged, I guess it would have been for last year's show, for the 5 of us. That one really kind of suits some of the older carols that we're doing, because it has more of an austere kind of ethereal setting to it of ushering in the season, and And then Solstice Carol is another one that comes to mind, an original tune by the Weird Sisters that I arranged a number of years ago. And it's got quite a high energy, packs a punch kind of feel. I channeled my inner Rioton kind of when I was trying to write that piece. And that one really fits in nicely with, we're doing White Winter Hymnal and Winter Song. So a nice little kind of pop set that's more contemporary about the season of winter in general.
Yeah.
So,
you're a group that also enjoys these sorts of reimaginings of favorite pieces, not the least of which because you have Scott doing a lot of the arrangement work. First of all, maybe Scott, we'll start with you on this. What's your approach to adding that sort of Proximus 5 touch to holiday favorites like Veni Emmanuel, which has been around for centuries?
Well, I think the main thing is that when you've got 5 voices that kind of cover the spectrum of what the human voice is capable of, I've got basically anything at my disposal when it comes to, a cappella, of course, is what we work with, but I know that I've got Jeremy on the low end that can go down to a C and with nice tone, and I know that I can go up to a high G with Dan, G5. He doesn't like to go that high too often, but he'll do it if you really talk nicely to him. So, but anyway, I've got all this to work with, and so I can truly be creative with these 5 parts and get them to fit together how I want, knowing the voices that will be singing them.
Yeah. Maybe we'll turn this question to you, Carla. When you're performing these sorts of rearranged masterworks, how do you approach with that sort of Proximus 5 sort of touch in a way that you might not otherwise approach a Christmas carol such as Veni Veni Emmanuel if you were singing it with Canzona? Or is there a change?
I don't know. I think, well, I'll just say too that I'm a sub for these shows,
Sure.
which has been super exciting. And so the first part of the process when rehearsing with these guys is always just reassessing the parts. And obviously I'm stepping in, it's James that's not able to be with us this time. So obviously I'm not a tenor. So I think what you were speaking to about using all the color palette that is available is we're just reimagining what colors. Many of us can sing the same lines, but
Sure.
it's a matter of deciding which colors fit which lines in the best way. Sometimes Scott and I duke it out, and sometimes Dan and I duke it out. No, there's not really dukes. It's a very friendly process.
But
yeah.
a really interesting piece is that Carla is kind of actually covering my role as the alto, the lower of the 2 countertenors in the group, and so for her to jump into that role is not that big a deal, but for me to actually shift then to the tenor role, I know I sound super tenory this morning in particular, right?
Like me.
But James is a proper tenor, and so for me to actually play the tenor role in the group, that's quite a challenge, and so I didn't write that Veni Veni Emmanuel line for myself.
Yeah.
However, well, no, I shouldn't say however, but so we actually tried it with each of us on one chunk of that song to see who does it just kind of sit best with.
Yeah.
And it actually ended up being Carla. So we swap lines here and there as we need to as well.
That sort of experimentation is really interesting. And Paul, maybe I'll direct this next question to you to say that these performances of Proximus 5s are known also for their sort of intimate nature. You're inviting audiences to be quite near in this holiday season. What do you notice about that sort of concert experience versus something that has perhaps a little bit more holiday verve to it? I'm thinking of something that audiences here listening to Classic 107 might be familiar with, like a Handel's Messiah or something like that has all of this pomp and circumstance. This is not that. What's the relationship like between ensemble and performer?
So we typically do interact with the audience through someone talking between sets, talking maybe a bit too much, but still talking with the audience between sets and helping them to come in and understand why we're doing this. And then a lot of the music is very accessible, like it will be reimaginings of Silent Night or things like that,
Sure.
which the audience knows very well typically. And I find that they are at times we can't look at the audience because they are being very emotional, and that's very difficult, as you know, as a singer, to look at someone who's crying in the audience gets you all welled up, so you have to look away and do other things. But that's what I find with the audience in Proximus 5, is they are truly allowing themselves to go to the place that they feel tradition brings them. Yeah.
That sort of intimate experience is a very, very interesting one, and one that perhaps is a bit more unique in the holiday concert tradition here in Winnipeg. Maybe a last question, and I'll go to all three of you on this, and I'll start with Paul. What do you think audiences are going to take away from a Proximus 5 holiday concert that they might not get from other holiday concerts?
Well, I think particularly this one, they're going to struggle with understanding which tune they should be humming as they walk home. Because there's going to be many that, if they are like Christmas listeners to music, there are many here that they could be humming when they walk home. So I think that'll be something they take away.
Fantastic. What about you, for Scott? What do you think they're going to take away?
Well, kind of along the same lines is they're going to get variety from this show that you might not get from every show. Some people might really appreciate, like, the second last song I think we're doing is the Real Group's version of the Christmas song, with Jeremy on the melody, down low. It's going to be great. And then we're also doing a couple of these old carols, like the Boar's Head Carol, Gaudete, that some people know very well. So it's just such a broad range of stuff. And again, what are they gonna hum out the door? I don't know.
Only one way to find out. Carla, maybe your perspective is going to be really interesting on this as the sub involved. What do you think that audiences are going to take away from a Proximus 5 holiday concert that they might not from any of the other ensembles that especially you are involved in?
Well, I think that I think the Christmas season choirs are often associated with Christmas seasonal music. I think because there are so many traditional carols, both secular and sacred, and so I just think, and again to speak to your previous question, I think the immediacy of 5 individual voices, there's an intimacy, there's a close connection that you can make with people, and so the fact that we're singing mostly fairly traditional or familiar songs, I just think it's going to hit people in all the feels.
Can't wait.
Yeah, and actually to add to that, it's we're sharing all kinds of stories here too. Like there are some nice, warm, cozy, like sit by the fireside stories, but there are also like again, Solstice Carol really packs a punch in terms of social justice in the world. And so like we really are kind of covering a lot of the gamut in terms of the different stories that there are to tell during this season, not just Christmas, but
some of the winter
coming
songs
into winter here.
speak more to the loneliness and you know, the cold and some of those feelings too. So I think people will feel something.